This is the Dark Zero Horror Network. Psychological Autopsies.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, and a huge thank you to everyone tuning in through the Dark Zero Horror Network.
We're so glad to have you with us for this one.
Because today, oh boy, we're descending into a true cinematic landmark with the grotesque, the hilarious, and the just completely unhinged.
We are talking about the 1985 horror comedy masterpiece, Reanimator.
Exactly. Our mission today is to figure out how this thing even happened. How did director Stuart Gordon take a pretty obscure H.P. Lovecraft story
And a tiny budget. We're talking around $900,000.
right, and turn it into this hyper-stylized classic that grossed over $2 million and became one of the most beloved cult films of the 80s?
Absolutely. And it's still sitting at a very solid 7.2 on IMDb, which just shows its staying power. It's proof that sometimes, constraints really do breed creativity.
But before we get into the 24 gallons of fake blood,
24 gallons.
we have to start with the man at the center of it all, the mad scientist himself, Herbert West.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The film is, like you said, loosely based on Lovecraft's serialized story, Herbert West Reanimator.
And when the film came out, it really split the Lovecraft fans, didn't it?
Oh, completely. You had the purists who called it a desecration because of all the gore and, well, the sex.
They wanted cosmic dread, not glowing green goo.
Exactly. But what they missed, and what the sources really point out, is that the original Lovecraft stories were kind of pure exploitation themselves.
Right. Lovecraft apparently wrote them just for the money. He didn't even think they were very good.
Not at all. And Stuart Gordon understood that DNA perfectly. He just took the exploitation and cranked it up to 11, swapping out existential dread for this bright green, glowing region.
And that region is everything. The film throws you right in.
Yeah.
The first scene in Zurich, it just perfectly establishes Herbert West.
Played with this incredible cold zeal by Jeffrey Combs.
Yes. You see, immediately he's not driven by evil, but by this intense clinical obsession.
It's the whole thesis of the film in one scene. He reanimates his professor, Dr. Hans Gruber. It goes horribly wrong because of an overdose. And what does West say?
I gave him life.
No apology, no panic, just the statement of fact. That's his entire worldview.
He has zero emotional response to the chaos he's causing. It's all about the result. And he brings that same terrifying focus to Miskatonic University.
Right, in Arkham. And he immediately finds a roommate, Van Kane, and turns his basement into a lab.
And we see that slow escalation. It starts with the cat, Rufus.
Poor Rufus. The warm-up act for the absolute madness that comes next.
Which is where the main conflict really kicks in. It's not just about reanimating corpses. It's about this rivalry with Dr. Carl Hill.
The pompous brain surgeon, played so well by David Gale. West just immediately accuses him of stealing ideas from his dead mentor, Gruber.
So it's personal. It's not just scientific disagreement.
It's pure academic warfare. And Hill, of course, discovers West's secret and tries to blackmail him for the formula. He wants that power for himself.
And this is where the film just hits the accelerator. West and Dan, they sneak into the morgue to test the reagent on a human.
And the result is, well, it's not life. It's this frenzied, violent, zombie-like state.
And that violence leads directly to the death of Dean Halsey.
Megan's father.
Exactly. And West's reaction is just, it's so perfectly him. Instead of calling for help, he just looks at the body and sees a fresh specimen.
A perfect opportunity. He injects the Dean, and suddenly Megan's dad is the psychotic, reanimated monster. The film crosses the line from tragedy straight into high-level, gory, dark comedy.
And once that happens, it's just pure mayhem. Which brings us to the production itself. I mean, how did they pull this off with such a tiny budget?
Well, the whole origin of the project was kind of a mess, which explains a lot. Gordon's first impulse was to do a Frankenstein film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he felt there were just too many Dracula movies. He stumbled upon the Lovecraft story, which was long out of print, and it just clicked.
But it didn't start as a movie, did it?
No, not at all. It was first conceived as a stage play, then they thought about a half-hour TV pilot.
That would have been interesting.
Can you imagine? It was only when producer Brian Usna got involved that it became a feature. He was the one who said the only real market for horror was in film.
And Usna had a very specific vision, right?
He did. He said he wanted the shock sensibility of an Evil Dead with the production values of, hopefully, The Howling.
That's a great way to put it. Low-budget shock, but polished.
And boy, did they deliver on the shock. The film got an X rating at first, purely for the gore.
Which brings us back to the blood. 24 gallons.
24. The makeup artist, John Nolan, said he'd never used more than 2 gallons on any film before. It's just an absurd amount.
And it wasn't just the quantity. They were obsessed with getting the look right.
Totally. They used forensic pathology books, even got photos from the Cook County morgue to get the skin tones and the modeling of the corpses just right.
Yeah.
That detail is what sells the horror, even when it's so over the top.
But the real masterpiece, the thing that I think still amazes everyone, is the headless Dr. Hill.
Oh, yeah.
The effect of him walking around carrying his own talking head. How on earth did they do that?
It was, by all accounts, a mechanical nightmare. The effects designer, Tony Dublin, had to basically invent the solution. The main problem was proportion.
Right, because if an actor just bends over, their body looks all wrong.
Exactly. So they built this fake upper torso rig. David Gale, the actor, would bend over and stick his actual head through a hole in the top.
So you're seeing his real head.
His real head being carried by his own body, which is hidden inside this prosthetic torso. The camera had to be framed just right, low and tight, to hide the trick.
That is just. It's the peak of practical effects genius.
Yeah.
And that ingenuity is why critics, against all odds, absolutely love this movie.
They really did. It holds a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. They saw past the gore and recognized the wit and the sheer energy of it.
Even someone like Pauline Kael, who was famously tough, she called it Pop Buñuel and praised its indigenous American junkiness.
And Roger Ebert wrote about how the audience was just going wild, emitting taxi whistles and wild goat cries. He said he was surprised and reinvigorated by it.
That perfectly captures the experience of seeing it in a theater. And so much of that energy comes from Jeffrey Combs.
Absolutely. One critic called his performance a brittle, slightly faced psychotic in the Anthony Perkins mold. He's funny, he's menacing, he's just completely detached. He holds the whole chaotic film together.
He really does. And to fully appreciate his character arc, you really have to talk about the different cuts of the film.
Yes. This is so important for anyone wanting the full experience. You have the main 86-minute unrated cut, which was Stuart Gordon's preferred version.
Then you have the R-rated version, which, had to chop out a lot of the best gore.
But here's the fascinating part. To make up for the lost runtime from the gore, the R-rated cut actually added in deleted scenes.
And some of those scenes are pretty crucial, right?
They are. There's a whole subplot about Dr. Hill using hypnotism to control the reanimated corpses, including Dean Halsey. It explains why they're so suggestible.
And the other one, the big one, is the scene with West.
Right. A short scene where you see Herbert West injecting himself with small doses of the reagent to stay awake and energized.
Which totally changes his character. He's not just this cold, objective scientist anymore. He's becoming an addict, reliant on his own creation.
Exactly. It makes him so much more unstable and desperate. It's this amazing case where studio meddling accidentally deepened the character.
So for the real fans, the ultimate version is what they call the integral cut.
That's the one. It came out on a German Blu-ray in 2013, and it combines everything. It puts all those deleted scenes from the R-rated version back into the full, unrated, gory cut.
So you get the hypnosis, you get West's self-injection, and you get all 24 gallons of blood.
It's the definitive version, almost 105 minutes long.
And that all leads to this incredibly bleak and chaotic climax. West finally defeats Hill, but then Megan is killed by another one of the corpses.
And Dan is just broken, completely broken. He takes her body, surrounded by all this glowing green reagent, and in total despair, he injects her.
The screen goes black, and all you hear is her scream. It's such a perfect, dark, ambiguous ending.
It refuses to give you an easy answer, which is why the film has had such a long life. It didn't just end there, it kicked off a whole franchise.
Right, you got Bride of Reanimator, and then, much later, Beyond Reanimator.
But the influence goes way beyond just the sequels. I mean, there was Reanimator, the musical,
which Stuart Gordon himself was involved with. And the character of Herbert West has become this huge figure in comic books.
Oh, the crossovers are legendary. You've got Army of Darkness versus Reanimator, Vampirella versus Reanimator. He just fits perfectly into any weird horror universe.
What I find most fascinating, though, are the sequels that never got made. The trilogy Brian Usna had planned.
Those sound absolutely bonkers. The first one was going to be House of Reanimator.
I love this concept.
Yeah.
A George W. Bush-inspired president dies in office.
And the White House secretly brings in Herbert West to reanimate him to avoid a crisis.
The political satire would have been incredible. I can just picture West in the Oval Office.
Then there was Island of Reanimator, which was basically the island of Dr. Moreau with Herbert West.
And a prequel, right, Reanimator begins.
Yeah, where an amnesiac West gets rescued by the granddaughter of Dr. Hans Gruber, his first victim, who is apparently still shambling around Zurich.
It's such a shame those never happened. They just ran out of financing.
It's true, and, there have been talks of more serious reboots over the years, but they always seem to stall.
Because if you take out the comedy and the absurdity, what do you really have left?
You lose the soul of it. The latest news is that a company is trying again, but we'll see.
So for you, the listener, what's the big takeaway here? Reanimator is the ultimate proof that with a tiny budget, a ton of creativity, and obscene amount of blood, you can create something truly special.
It didn't just mix horror and comedy, it sort of redefined the formula for a generation. It shows that the line between giving life and creating absolute horror is very short, bright green, and it glows in the dark.
And the chaos around the film ensures that, much like its subjects, it just refuses to ever truly die. A perfectly provocative thought to end on.
A huge thank you again to all our listeners, especially everyone over at the Dark Zero Horror Network.
Yes, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. And if you enjoyed this descent into madness, please like, subscribe, and share it. We'll see you next time.